Thursday, people. Good night. It is Charlotte Cornegay coming live to you with another Forever Friends Academy episode. I've missed coming on with you guys. I know it's super, super late. It's definitely later than I normatively come on, but I missed 2 days, a whole week of not being on with you guys. So I was like, you know what? I don't care how this day pans out. I'm going to come on here to say hi, to talk to you guys for a moment. So I don't know. I don't know how many people I'm going to get on with me tonight, but we'll see. But I missed you guys. I have been wholeheartedly focusing on getting my project management certificate. And so I had to lock in, hone in, really just kind of study. Eat, study, sleep. And thankfully it paid off. I passed. So that's why I wasn't on with you guys this past last Thursday and Sunday. So I was like, it's been too long. So I gotta come back on with you guys. So I'm not going to be long. I'm just gonna pop in to say hi and hopefully, dish out some quick tips for you guys. But hopefully, maybe I'll get somebody on with me tonight. I don't know. It's quite late. So, but anyway, let me introduce myself just in case I do get someone new on tonight on the podcast. My name is Charlotte Cornegay. I'm an author, recording artist, creator of Interact Coaching and Forever Friends Academy. This is my show of the same name, Forever Friends Academy. And this is a place that I pray that you can come to learn the principles that build relationships that last a lifetime. That is my main goal, is to help people build relationships that last a lifetime and to help people love to their fullest capacity. It's not so that it can overflow, of course, in the intimate, romantic, long-term relationships that they have and in all the other areas and dynamics of relationships that we exist in and have, but mainly also and so that they can, fulfill their purpose on earth here. One of the most fulfilling aspects and parts of me going into coaching, and relationship coaching. I've been doing it now for, oh my gosh, going on since my son was born. So yeah, going on 9+ years now. So one of the most fulfilling parts of it is when people come, for, of course, relationship skill development, and we talk and we learn about those things, but somewhere along the journey, they realize that the process that they are going through and experiencing is really introducing deeper layers and levels of who they are to themselves. So it's a beautiful process of self-discovery. And so it's been nice to be a witness, to play a part in not only people establishing their relationships, their marriages, their family, but I've seen people build businesses, even though that's not what I started it as. I don't necessarily call myself a life coach. It's just the relationship space is such a prevalent part of our lives, and it is really integrated in so many other areas of our life that, I've had people build businesses from coaching with me. I've had people see themselves in a certain light because of their past mistakes and then discover their worth and their value. So all of that has been very fulfilling. So I'm hoping that the content that I create, whether it's on here, or whether I'm doing private coaching, or even the songs that I sing, will help people experience some of those things that I just stated, knowing your value, knowing your worth, knowing God created you just right, and that there are certain gifts and skills and talents that exist within you that only you can pour out into the world. So in a nutshell, that's what you can look for and find when you come across, my content. And if you want to check out any of my music, on stage I go by Charlotte K. That's SHARLA space and a K. You can look it up on Google or any of your favorite music platforms that you listen to, and definitely check out the music. I love the music. That I'm proud of the music that I have put out thus far, and I'm really excited now because, as I was stating before, I was really focusing on getting my project management certificates. I set a goal, into the new year to get both of them. I have both I have my Google Project Management certificate, and I also have my CAP-M from the Project Management Institute, which is a global recognition of having the skill sets to do project management. So I'm happy I honed in on that, and that goal, so far that box has been checked off. And so I've said now this next month or two, I'm going to focus on the creativity to get some new music to you guys. So I'm excited about that because you have so many songs cooking within me, and I'm like, I want to get it to the people, Lord. So now I can focus on it. So anyway, let's get into tonight's topic. Because I said I'm not going to be here long because I'm on late, but I wanted to speak to you guys because I missed you. I really missed you. I haven't been on here for a while. And before I put out, well, actually, I'm gonna do it while I state the quote for tonight. I will put the link because I'm excited I can accept calls now, guys. So I'm going to put the link in. So, call me, talk to me, get on. It's not actually clearly not a phone. It's the link that you can use if you want to phone in. So anyway, it ties into what I'm going to say tonight. So the quote for tonight is from one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, when I say my favorite, it is from Dr. Myles Munroe. And I came across it this week, and so I wanted to present it to you guys. And he has so many sermons on finding your purpose in life. So it was one of those. But the line in the quote that stood out to me in this particular sermon he was talking about, he said, and which is also tonight's quote, is that God does not bless your desires. He blesses your plans. So I'll say it again. The quote for tonight is, God blesses your plan, not your desires. And he said something else that also goes along with it in the message that he was talking about. He said basically that your plan, or having a plan, or taking the time to write it down, to believe in it, etc., is your greatest expression of faith. Which I thought, I was like, oh, I never really. I mean, I say it in different ways here on my podcast, but man, anybody has ever listened to Dr. Myles Munroe, he has such a way of, a masterful communicator, honestly, in the way that and especially in the way that he breaks down the Word of God and the truthful principles of the kingdom of God. So anyway, that is the quote. The quote is, God blesses your plan, not your desires. And to go along with that, your plan is your greatest expression of faith. And I thought it was great that I heard it, this week, especially after coming off of now it's been a while, actually, that topic that we were discussing, that long statement that I presented to you guys at the top of the year, lasted about like maybe a month and a half, 2 months. But we were talking about just like the process of actually getting to a point where you wholeheartedly submit to your dreams, to the point where you are okay with, cultivating your skills, cultivating and nurturing and training, however you want to put it, and, willing to go through whatever sacrifices that are that you need to make to be able to fully, experience and the fulfillment of, what you were designed here to do, or who you are to become. And so I thought that quote was such a great way to kind of connect to the conversation that we've been having, and why I wanted to present it in the area and the dynamics of relationships is because, listen, I know, for me, it happened more so in the area of just trying to figure out what my talents and purpose was. For me, this is where it occurred. But for a lot of people, it occurs in relationships, where sometimes you can have a relationship where you have such a strong desire, it literally can be two people who have a strong desire to want to have a fulfilling relationship, want to experience each other in certain ways, but no plan, And a plan, someone might be listening like, Charlotte, okay, what is a plan when it comes to relationships? Well, a plan when it comes to relationships, of course, is actually number one, holding space, right? To learn about relationship skills, to learn about relationship development so that you can kind of have some grounding or foundational principles that you can measure. It can be like a baseline for you to kind of know how someone is, to engage with you as well as you engage with them. So that's part of it. But another thing that came up, not but, in addition, I'm trying to stop saying but, guys, so bear with me. In addition to that, there is three kind of ways or perspectives that I present to my clients in my Forever Friends Academy, or if it's in my private coaching sessions. And it's basically something that I came up with, well, I can't just say I came up with, but maybe divine inspiration, right? Definitely all divine inspiration, because any wisdom I get definitely comes from God the Father. Thank you, Lord. Right? So it's something that I have learned through being married to Ben. And I always tell them is a certain tiered level and ways that I think of Ben when I'm thinking about him, of course, but as also engaging with him as his wife. So number one that I think about is, one, he's a child of God, right? He is, numero uno, right? Like, outside of him being, taking on the position of being my husband, he's a child of God, right? So he is a spirit, that is navigating this world, that is wrapped in a really nice physical package. Handsome physical package, right? So I start there, right? And it helps me because I think no matter what, it helps me to appropriate, to make sure that I'm always understanding that his number one is that he needs to fulfill whatever God-given purpose here that he needs to fulfill, right? And I want to support that in whatever way that I can, and I don't want to get in the way. And sometimes the titles that we attach to each other, even though, right, we're taking on those positions, sometimes the layered expectation that can come along with that, and with the emotional pull that comes with that, can sometimes, get in the way. And so that's number one. I think of him as a child of God. Number two, I think of him as a soul, right? And the reason why I think of him as a soul is because we all come with our stuff, right? And it helps me to remind myself that before he has decided to be my companion, to take the position as my husband, he has been through things in life. Many of them that had nothing, right, to do with me. Many of them I wasn't there to experience, to feel with him, etc. And so when I think of him in that way as a soul, then it allows me in moments that we all have, right, in moments where we might, do something or don't understand how the person and why they act the way that they do, or they do something that offends us and they don't even know, right? They have, or maybe they do know they have. It is a constant reminder to me, like, okay, he's a soul, right? And this soul has been through some things, and that soul is not always going to be perfect, right? And none of us, perfection, as much as we all can try to strive to be it, experience it, etc. Oftentimes, right, we're flawed and oftentimes scarred individuals, and a lot of the beauty comes from the flaws and the scars, if we can be okay with embracing them and learning from them. So that affords me to do that, right? Then third, I look at him as a friend, right? Hence, forever friend, right? And the reason why I look at him as a friend is because that scripture just sticks out to me all the time, in the Bible, where it says there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother, and I always think about marriage in that way. And I always think about the miraculous nature of it, when you are, going into a relationship that is not a biological, right, link or bond. That means you are literally, choosing to love that person, choosing to stay loyal, choosing to commit to that person. And there is no, I don't know if you guys have ever felt this way before, that sometimes if it's a biological type of tie, sometimes it can come layered with these, you know, um, unspoken expectations or hidden, you can kind of feel it. Whereas in marriage or going into a relationship, there's nothing like, it's nothing. You are literally just saying, you know what? Something about you, your character, your nature, I choose you and I want to choose you and I want to keep choosing you, even though there is nothing, that is necessarily tying us together. And so when I think of him as a friend, before I think of him as a husband, it reminds me, to outside of his clearly being in my life and choosing to show up each and every day, I want what's best for him, even outside of, right? Him being connected to me. And so those three, child of God, right? Spirit, soul, friend, really help to rear any expectations that come up, and it helps to appropriate the expectations that come up. And it helps to really center the relationship, to keep it centered in purpose. And so in moments when there is offense or in moments where there is misunderstandings, it's easier for me to like kind of, not get so emotionally compromised and kind of course correct or be able to appropriate my emotions in the right way. And then lastly, of course, I think of him in the way, in the position that he has with honor and respect and loyalty and commitment, has chosen to be my husband, So the title and the position is last, and a lot of times, and if you want to, because I'm actually going to be going through this a little bit more thoroughly, you'll see somewhere I'll put, not most of my social media platforms, I'll put the link to my offline private group coaching. We have a Q&A session that's coming up on Monday where I actually have an activity where we go through it, where they can examine how they feel like they are being towards their partner when they think of all those four categories, like how do you think that you kind of facilitate or create an environment or engage with that person as a child of God? What are things that you do that stand out in that way, that you are, kind of engaging with them to highlight the fact that that's what they are, and then soul, right? Maybe for an example, maybe someone being able to keep in the mind that the person that they're dealing with is a soul who has dealt with things before they even came into a relationship with them. It might be, okay, I hold space for that person to process, to go through, whatever, or say whatever things that they need to say in the relationship without taking offense. Maybe I appreciate, the honesty that they give me. I just heard this week that honesty is really courageous, that it's having the courage to tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. So all of those things, because, right, these are simple things that can come up very easily in relationships and cause triggers, like you want that person to be transparent, you want your person to be vulnerable, but at the same time, as much as you want that, we still have to kind of develop the skills of, okay, can I stand in it though? Like when they are giving me this truth, what skills, what kind of things have I put in place to be able to say, okay, I can do this. I can hear you out. I can provide the space without the offense, vice versa towards one another. So I have found that's a way that I use with my clients where that plan part of it, right? So it's foundational principles that creates having a plan for a relationship, because if you know, or even if you've allowed yourself to be open to even, you know, have the question come in your space, like, okay, what is love and how do I want to approach, the relationship that I am in love? What is the best way that I do that? All those different questions help to at least give you space to kind of, figure out some of those things, or at least leave space for the answers to come to you, right? Which leads us into really what tonight is about. And hey, Justin, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you for popping in. We are talking about tonight. The quote is, God does not bless your desires. He blesses your plans, and your plan is your greatest expression of faith. And so to tie it into what the main thing, the meat, if you've seen the title tonight, is share with me a question or questions or a statement or statements that you have either heard someone tell you or said to yourself that really changed your life, that changed the trajectory of your life. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that tonight in tandem with the quote that I brought up is because I have told you guys time and time again that I think my superpower is my voice, and that God uses many different mediums for my voice to go out into the world. And one of the things that I have heard people say over and over and over again about me, which I'm hoping also the people who watch my episodes, whether in real time or on after, on the replay, is that I am a person who is able to help guide people by asking them the right questions, or ask questions that make them think about things in ways that they would have never, in such atypical or different perspectives that it offers for just new, mindset for them to have or to come in. So one of the superpowers in the way that I use my voice, I think, is I'm able to ask, the just right questions that will help people really embark upon their own answers, or discover the truth that's already existing within them. So that's one of my superpowers. And I've heard from my clients over and over again. I've heard from my friends who aren't my clients. As I said, one of my friends called me Baby O, like Baby Oprah. Because they know, I'm that friend that, will ask you some questions, things that'll make you go, or a question that will surpass, like literally basically bypass the mind and go straight to the heart, right? And they're still thinking about it. They're contemplating, it's processing through them, and they're like, oh my gosh, So definitely that's one of my superpowers. And I'm a definite believer that the right questions lead to the right answers, and that the right questions, or question can formulate a plan towards, the fulfillment of your deepest dreams, your deepest desires, right? And the right questions can lead to the solution of our most complex, problems. So definitely, if you're on with me tonight, and I'm not sure how many people will be on because it's so late, but if you are on with me, let me know. Share with me a question or a statement that either somebody told you or just you in your own process, where the question came to you, and man, it shifted either your mindset, it shifted, well, if you shift your mindset, you definitely can shift the trajectory of your life for sure. As a man thinking, so is he, right? So yeah, let me know if you have any of that. And particularly, I wanted to put it along with the quote that God doesn't bless your desires, but he blesses your plans, is, like I said, the right question can help you formulate a plan, that will lead towards some of you, experiencing the deepest fulfillment of the dreams that exist inside of you. So let me know. While I'm waiting for you guys, though, I definitely, oh my gosh, I'm not going to say all of them because we'd be on here for a month of how many questions that either I have come up with or has come to me, or statements that I've heard that definitely have changed my life. But there are three that I thought of off the back. And hopefully when I put it out, and another reason why I wanted to bring this up tonight is that if you're on and you do want to either type the question or statement that you've heard, or now that I have the link, if your camera ready, you can come talk to me. But not but, I wanted to present this to you guys because if someone's listening, maybe some of the questions that are presented tonight will help, them in wherever they are in trying to process, either what their purpose is or maybe what is needed in their relationships, for them to experience true joy and fulfillment and things like that. So anyway, I'm going to tell you the three that came to my mind. The first one, many of you, if you've been on with me multiple times, you've heard this story before. And the first question was really, I think, my first encounter of a full embrace and really a full understanding of what love is. And so that's why it stands out to me. And it was like number one that I thought of when thinking of a question or questions that were presented to me that changed the trajectory of my life. And so the statement really, because it was a question that led to a statement that happens often to me. I don't know. Let me know if that happens to you guys too. Like, I think asking the right questions has led me to have like a response of the right statement, if that makes any sense. So anyway, the first statement that I'm thinking of is the statement that came to me when I was feeling like, I was either going to replicate some of the dysfunction that I witnessed or experienced during the early years in my childhood, or was I going to go with what was unfamiliar to me, but what I could only describe as God's love, or the light of God's love. And I remember choosing love, and immediately after I chose that in my heart, hearing the statement, which I say often on here, is if your mother and father were there to love you in the way that you think would be the best way, where would they be getting the ability to do that from? And I heard it clear as day. That's what I mean, the right question. And then I respond with a statement, and I heard it clear as day from you, from God, and it was like, da, 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 I don't know. That's probably not the right sound you'd make for a light bulb moment. I don't know what, ding. I don't know what sound you'd make for a light bulb moment, but that was a light bulb moment for me. And it connected the dots for me that, okay, oh my gosh, God is love. Oh, love does not have to be attached to this form that you're holding on to, Charlotte. If anybody gives you in the pure essence, any action towards you that is of goodness and is in the nature of pure love, it is most definitely coming from me. That is what you're longing for. I can, meaning God, I can put that in as many, and I do, by the way, right? Put that in as many packages as possible. But sometimes people block out the ways that God can introduce himself, or love can introduce, itself to them, because they hold on to the way that they want to experience love. And for me, it was so freeing because that's what I was doing and I didn't even know, and anybody who I would have spoken to or who I did speak to just was like, you're right. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? And it's not about a right or wrong thing, right? Because it's like, okay, yeah, you desire love from your parents. However, it's more so like, okay, the truth of the matter and what do you want to experience? It's like, do you want to hold on to, yeah, you're right in this and in feeling this way? Or do you just want to experience this thing, right? Like, or do you just want to experience love in its most pure and authentic form? And for me, it most definitely innately in my heart was that I just want to experience it in its most purest, authentic form. And so, the statement that came after that was, if I'll look for you, you know, I'll look for you in all of the places that I go and all of the people that I meet, and I will embrace, and I will acknowledge, and I will honor, and I will be grateful for the love that comes from them, that is expressed, that reflects you, right? Who God is and who the nature of love is, who reflects that, and I will receive it, So that was one of the most pivotal parts, pivotal moments in my life, honestly. I think it laid the foreground, for what I'm doing now, for me to be able to have healthy relationships, definitely a long-lasting, healthy, fulfilling marriage with Ben definitely laid the foundation for that. So that's number one. Number two that I thought of, definitely as a believer, do you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Right? That's a question. And definitely the moment when I took that on, I think what that granted me was just like an unwavering faith and a very, what's the word I'm looking for? A penetrating power. I can't really explain it any other way. But yeah, like, a penetrating power not only coming upon me and in my life to the point, meaning if there were things within me, I always say this statement on the show that love, or love, gratitude, things like that, like pure love and gratitude, no other negative emotion can hold the same space, with those things. I'll tell my clients if they're having a bad day, they're going through something, just think about one small thing that you're grateful for, and you will see it's just like a candle, putting a candle in a little tea light in a dark room. How much that kind of illuminates, how much that kind of removes the negativity and the toxicity that you feel. Just having a moment thinking about something that you're grateful for. And so that's what I mean, like a penetrating power, because there are certain things, whether it's external things that would happen in life, storms that would come my way, or internal things that I was working out within myself. It was like, understanding and having the power of Christ in my life, it just didn't stand a chance. It's like having a sniper. Like, oh, what? Doubt, lack of faith. Oh no. You know what I mean? It would just shoot it down. So that's what I'm thinking of in that way. So definitely that question for sure. And third, I don't know if anyone listening has read this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, but boy, if you haven't, definitely read it. It's definitely a classic for self, growth and elevation. And I remember reading this book in a pivotal moment of my life because I was pregnant with my first, with my daughter. And I remember, and I've shared this story before, I graduated with a communication studies degree, but only in my mind for a plan B, because I love the arts. I love acting. I love singing. And so, that's all I have really ever seen myself doing. But as, I went to college, a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, but important people, I'll put it that way, in my life just guided me and said, make sure you get, a degree that I guess would offer you more security, that you can go in, because maybe you don't need one for singing and things like that. Just, get basically a more solid degree is what they were saying. So anyway, I did communication studies only because it would help me work on things that I would need to work on anyway in singing, articulation, pronunciation, even the journalism that we did, or the stories, or the heavy focus on writing that we had to go through in our learning process helps, right? With songwriting. Definitely didn't know I was going to be an author later down in life. So it came into, it was useful. It was very resourceful, more than what I knew back then. But that wasn't, ever in my mind going to be something that I really was going to go after. And I remember when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I had a decision to make whether I was going to go into a dual program to get my master's and my PhD at UPenn, the esteemed College of Communication, Annenberg College of Communication. So I had the choice to do that, and went as far as interviewing with the dean of that school. But I remember being pregnant with my first daughter and just saying, I am going to regret if I don't take my shot. I don't know, has anybody seen Hamilton? I'm not going to, miss the show. Like, I'm not going to let this moment pass me by. And I said, at that time, I didn't even know I was having a girl because I wanted to be surprised. And I said, man, I want to be a hypocrite to this child to say that this is what I really wanted to do, and I didn't go that route just to play it safe. So I remember saying, okay, this is not the route, that I want to go, and I really want to go heavy in on the arts, go on auditions, do the acting, do the singing. And I remember I did that, and, it was pretty tough, as anybody will let you know who is in the industry and the business. It's not for the faint at all of heart. And for me, it was even more, I think, of a struggle because I was still battling and coming out of stage fright. And so I would go on these auditions, and even though I was equipped, to do it, I had this great voice, great, beautiful range, and I would practice hard at home and things like that. But in the moment, sometimes I'd freeze up and not necessarily do it exactly the way that I was doing it at home, and et cetera, et cetera. So, but eventually, right after going on many auditions, I remember landing what I thought was my dream job. If it, not on Broadway, right? Most, I guess, more theater driven people would want to end up on Broadway. And this was akin to like a Broadway, but for me, it was better because I've always wanted to connect the art that I do with meaningful messages. So I landed what I thought was my dream job of being able to use all of my gifts. It involved singing, just like a musical, right? It involved singing, acting, but to put more icing on the cake, we were acting and singing about meaningful topics that were important to the world, like sustainability and water in, areas that, right, are struggling to have clean water, human sex trafficking. It was like real deal issues. So it afforded to show the depth of my acting in that way, but then it afforded me to showcase my voice. So it was great. And we danced. So it was like triple threat, and I would be able to exude and express all of the talents that God gave me. So it was like, wow, this is great, And then we were going to travel. We were supposed to go on tour and go to like different African countries and villages and perform for the people. It was just, on every end, I just was like, oh, this is hitting, this is fulfilling all my all the boxes, but unfortunately, the person who created it was very dishonest. She stated that, we went through a rigorous audition process, something of the likes of a Broadway, because we were supposed to be getting Broadway pay, and we were supposed to be paid for our rehearsals and things like that. And, and I'm sharing this story because I think it ties in a lot with the quote that I've introduced to you guys tonight, that God blesses our plans, not our desires, because I in that moment and going through that process, I could see different little shifts that were occurring, like there were different things that, she would put in the contracts and certain things would change. And maybe we had been rehearsing for a month or something. And we were realizing like, okay, wait, where's the payment? Things like that. And mind you, I was with a group of a lot of other talented, like when I say supremely talented people who are now, that I still am connected to, that are now, on like TV series and movies and things like that. Great. Just the level of talent was insane. So when I was in this group, I didn't necessarily have to change so much of my life, because I was already married. I was already in my home, all I had to do was probably, travel, probably a greater distance than most of them, because where we were in rehearsing, most of them were located in the city we were in. But a lot of people like subletted their apartments, right? Thinking we were going to be on tour for like half of the year, things like that. We had to take, get vaccines and things like that because you're traveling. So people were shifting their lives greatly under the pretenses of what she said, that we were going to do. And so, as you can imagine, there were so many people who were really upset once we found out that the things that she said weren't true, and it was really that she wanted to put this show together so that we can present it. The director of this piece was connected to the United Nations, another reason why it also pulled me as much as it did. But basically, she wanted to get sponsors to sponsor this show. And I think if she would have put it out there in that way, she didn't feel necessarily that she would have gotten, received the caliber of talent that she did. So I just remember being completely disappointed. I was just so disappointed because I was like, oh my gosh, this was my dream. It had everything. It checked all the boxes. Like all of my talents were going to be showcased. I'm going to, deal with real life issues and enriching, scenarios and things like that. And I'm going to travel with it, everything. And I just remember saying, never again will I allow someone to just take the rug underneath me. And I decided after that occurred that I was just going to sit down and I was going to figure this out, because before then I felt like, okay, I'm auditioning, I'm here, I'm there. And don't get me wrong, anybody who's listening, who's in theater arts or auditioning as a singer and things like that, it can feel like that. It can feel like that, just the nature of the business. But for me, I just felt like, okay, no, I need to kind of center myself, because I feel like I'm all over the place. I feel like I'm busy, but I'm not making progress. Like I'm not moving, and I need to figure out why, right? Because if you do the same thing, doing the same thing and expecting different results is insanity, right? And so I said, no, I'm not going to allow this to happen again, ever again, to where I feel like I'm giving someone the ability to literally just take something out of my future out of my hands, basically. And so I literally was like, okay, I'm staying home intentionally. I am going to pour into myself. I'm going to really figure out what is the best way for me to pursue my purpose here. And I started reading those books. I started reading Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and things like that. But Think and Grow Rich, I'm bringing up because it's a statement that was in the book that brought a question to me that changed my life. And basically, the statement in the book was, actually, it was a question. Do you have more liabilities in your life or assets? Was the question, and in the book, it was saying that, of course, if you have assets, those are the things that will compound, right? Wealth in your life. And I just remember reading that book and reading that statement and having the truth come to me that, okay, Charlotte, you definitely have more of liabilities, in your life, because everything that I was doing required my physical presence, for me to exchange my time, my energy, my effort to, in exchange for, the money that I was going to receive. And in the book, it was talking about building assets that do not require your physical presence to be there, where you can compound the wealth. And that made me look at what I was doing and think about what it is that I could create, that would provide for me residual income, and income that didn't require my physical presence to be there. And it was such a beautiful process because it led me to ask the question to myself, what is the thing that you have done throughout your life, the most that has stayed with you? And for me, it was a really important question for me because I'm a multi-talented person. So I can get into something, really focus, hone in on it, and do really well at it because I'm just built that way. And so it can be a good thing when you're built that way. Or it could be a bad thing. You can feel like you're all over the place. And for me, I realized I needed something at the center or at the core to kind of keep me centered. And when I asked myself that question, I look back from my childhood all the way up, it was writing for me. Like I always either, from the moment, of course, that I learned how to write, I would write poetry, I would write songs. I would just free write journals. And I remember when I was, I think, either in middle school or maybe it was the beginning of high school, I wrote plays. I wrote this play. And it's been something that I've either used as a creative release for myself or, I've used to, it's been at the center of my creativity. That's the best way that I can explain it. And so from that, I said, okay, I can see, right? Like I literally wrote it down on the paper to kind of map it out, and it's the same thing that I've told you guys. When I come to my superpower, I'm like, okay, my voice is a superpower because the writing is a medium for that. And so, and really behind that, what I pray, right? As far as the impact that I'm making is just to leave myself open to the wisdom of God so that I can translate those messages to people, right? And so I wrote, writing at the center, my voice and writing at the center. And then I looked at all the different ways and mediums that God utilizes me to convey those messages. And of course, acting came up, writing songs came up, writing books ignited from that question. Literally, the igniting of me writing my first book, Life in Color, came from that deep probe of a question. And I said, okay, I can start like my own publishing company. And I was thinking I had my first daughter and I was thinking about her and I said, I want to leave an asset for her. And I haven't released it yet for you guys, but I started writing a little children's book for her with different characters and things like that. And it was such a breakthrough moment for me because one, I didn't feel like I had to forsake one of my gifts for the other. But at the same time, having something centered and at the core help give me an anchor that would counteract any moments where I wanted to get, busy, but not necessarily really productive, right? And not really making progress. That anchor, because it connected all the things that I did to this one central, purpose, or one central will of God placed over my life. It helped a lot, tremendously. And honestly, all of the things, whether, the books that I've written, the coaching, all of, the new songs that were birthed after that have come from that one question, of let me, I want more assets in my life. I don't want more liabilities, and so how can I create, and it perfectly aligns with my, deep need to create things that outlast me, things that, will leave a legacy, will allow for my voice to echo on in time, even when my physical body can't be here, right? And so that's why I'll put out the songs, not because I want to be some famous superstar or anything like that. No, I'm very private. I like my private life. So probably too private to a fault. Because, people do like to feel like they know you, and they're especially now in the age of social media, they really do like when they feel like they get a glimpse into your life and, your family and things like that. So every now and then I'll post something, about pictures of me and Ben or something like that, something that we're doing. And, yeah, but it's not my cup of tea necessarily, that's not my first to go to, but to create something that outlast me. Yes, absolutely. So the songs that I can put out, my children's, and so on, will be able to hear, my voice and the things that matter to me. And it can also, right, touch people that have that I don't know, that are all around the world, that can say, you know what, wow, that song you sung, it touched me. Or I came across one of your videos and that content or that message that you stated really did affect me, So those are there's so many that I can say definitely changed the trajectory of my life, because it shifted my mindset. And more importantly, sometimes more than the mindset, my heart posture, in the way that I decided to navigate my life and navigate this world and navigate engaging in the relationships that I keep and how I keep them, right? So yeah, those are 3 questions for sure. I guess there were like more than 3, especially the last one. It had a lot of different facets to it, and progression in the way that, those questions unfolded for me. But those definitely are some ones that I thought of for sure that definitely changed the trajectory of my life in such a beautiful way. I'm so glad, that I had those experiences and those questions came to kind of probe, questions do come to kind of probe our inner thoughts and our inner being. And if we allow it to do what it needs to do, then it will bring out, oftentimes it will bring out, as I said, the right answers, or it will, create a plan that will allow, from those questions, right? You can create a plan that will allow you to fulfill some of your deepest dreams and some of your deepest desires. But as the quote said tonight, God blesses your plans, not your desires, So we want to have plans, not only in, of course, fulfilling our purpose and fulfilling our dreams here, but when it comes to relationships too. And plan not in the way of like, okay, I want this to go a certain way, and try to control or manipulate things like that, because that can just be your strong desires. And that desire starts to kind of try to manipulate or influence, right, your emotions, and then you navigate the relationship that way, which is, definitely more of a recipe for the relationship not being as optimal as you would want, an optimal experience as you would want it to be. No plan, meaning, okay, let me think about the things that make up, a marriage, if that's what you're looking, if that's a desire for you. Let me think of, what are the skill sets that make up having a healthy, long relationship, things like that. That's how you can kind of, you know, ask certain questions that will formulate a plan, and always remember, this is another, I can go on and on, but this is another one that definitely I keep with me all the time and helps me, which is that even if you plan, right, God doesn't necessarily always give you all the details, and you have to be okay with the changes and be open to the changes that might come into play and occur, especially in relationships, right? Because there's certain things that we don't know, of what will happen. So it's better to use those, be anchored in some of those foundational, fundamental principles, want to learn about them, and expose yourself to them, and really write those principles, and allow them to be inscribed on your heart and your soul, so that, in times when either change comes or challenges come, you bring them to your recollection, and you bring them, and, you remember them. So definitely, if you did not catch the live right now, definitely flood my feed and let me know, what are some questions? What are, the questions or statements that have changed your life? Whether it was someone who told you some things, told you the question, asked you the question, or told you the statement. Yeah, definitely let me know. Flood my feed and let me know what are some of those questions, because I think it definitely would be helpful for a lot of people, who they can look down and say, okay, wow, I never thought about asking that, or wow, I never thought about asking that in that way. We can help each other in that way, for sure. And I, you guys know, I love me a great quote, laced with a lot of wisdom, but I also love great questions that, bypass the mind and go to the heart, and help us to process, these things that we go through in life. That's a gift. So I am going to jump off. I'm glad I was able to, because today was a long day, y'all. Long day. I worked earlier. I came home, worked again in my own personal business, and, did the regular duties of cooking and things like that. And I was just like, missed the regular time that I wanted to come off because of the way the day was. But I'm glad that I decided to come on, and say hi to you guys anyway, because it's been such a while, and let me know if you have, for a lot of people, the first quarter of the year, it has passed. So let me know if there was something that, that you put on your goal that you have now fulfilled. It's always good. It's always good to have a goal and you fulfill it. For you guys, I told you I was doing a project management and I passed, y'all. Yay. I passed. And let me tell you, doing the test, I remember telling one of my close family members, as I was sharing the fact that I passed the test with them, because it's a test that they say maybe only like 60% people pass, and they don't really give you like an assessment of the answers that you got wrong and things like that. They have like a system where they'll say, okay, this part of the skill set you did above target, or you were on target, or you were below target, or you just like needs improvement because you were way off. So that's how they do it. So it's kind of hard and challenging to kind of figure out how you're supposed to study for this thing. And it's very scenario type of base. So it's not like a very kind of succinct calculative thing. You have to use your analytical reasoning, logical reasoning to kind of, and as well as know the language, right? And the methodologies that they use in project management and know which one goes where. So anyway, I was taking the test and I just, mind you, I had taken like 4 mock exams and scored all of them really high. But boy, oh my goodness, when I took the when I took the test, I was like, I felt so, for lack of better words, like just stupid. Because I was just like, of course the wording is not going to be the same on the mock exams, but I just like, it just in my feeling, that's how I felt, right? And I remember reviewing and researching and seeing people say you'll see a congratulations at the end, right? The test is made up of 150 questions, about 3 hours long. But they said there's about like 15 questions that's just like a survey that they throw out, just for future examination prep. So I'm like, okay, thinking it's going to be like 100 and, 100 and, by the time I get to like 135, I should see this congratulations sign come up, because the rest of it's just going to be kind of like survey questions. That's in my head. That's what I was thinking. And by the time I got to the 135th question, I was just like, oh gosh, there's no congratulations coming up. Okay, I probably failed this. I probably failed this test. But it was the fact that it wasn't survey questions like I thought of it. It was going to, as I thought it was going to be. It was questions that were literally a part of the methodology. You wouldn't know, right, which one was just for kind of like survey and future prep for exam. It was integrated, like it was one of, they were a part of the regular question. So you had to wait until the end. And I remember being on the last question, like, okay, gosh, this is 150. Oh no. Am I going to pass? And thankfully, thanks be to God. I thanked Jesus so many times after that test. I was like, thank you, I passed. I saw the congratulations, and I only share that because I didn't feel like I did good. Even though I prepped, even though I trained, even with the mock exams coming up with high scores, I don't know, I just felt like I didn't know, because so the way the test is like so many of the answers seem to be like they could be the right one, and you have to like pinpoint the exact one that is perfect for the scenario that they're bringing up. And when I received my assessment back of how I did on that test, I actually was closer to above target. Closer. And actually there are 2 sections that I did do above target. And so it was such an what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like an affirming and an awakening situation for me, because sometimes you can feel a certain way about something, but feelings aren't facts, right? And you can feel like you're not doing something in the right way, but actually be hitting the right target, and doing it actually above what the minimum is requirement. So that's why I like that quote, where it says God blesses your plans, not your desires, because you definitely think of desires in a good way. You thinking about the desires that you want to experience or want to have, as thinking about it and it bringing up good thoughts within you, unless, of course, you're thinking about the desire so much and you feel like, okay, you haven't met that mark, and then it becomes a whole nother thing. But when you plan something, it might not come with a good, pleasurable feeling, right? But you know that you outline these steps, or you outline this process, and that no matter what, you're going to commit to getting it done, whether you feel good on that day or you don't, whether you think you're the best at it or not, and it's very akin to how relationships, right? How to develop relationships that last a lifetime, that you made that vow for better or for worse, in moments that you don't feel happy all the time, you You follow the plan. What is the foundation of this relationship? What is the rubric that God has put out for how we engage with each other in a loving relationship? And you hold steadfast to that. So thank you guys for being on with me. And I'm getting off because it's late. Oh my goodness. Maya. I'm getting off, girl. But thank you for popping in. What are you doing up? Because it's late, okay? And it's a school day. What are you doing up? You supposed to be sleeping. I know. Look at me. I'm talking because I got to go in school tomorrow too. But oh man, I'm gonna return to this, but we're gonna talk about this on Forever Friends Academy. So I'll hear, because I think you would have been great with this conversation. But I'll leave you with a question for tonight, and you can talk with it with your wonderful husband or someone else, meaning facilitate deep, not someone else like someone else, but facilitate, in-depth conversations with people who are close to you. We talked about the quote from Myles Munroe: God blesses your plans, not your desires. God blesses your plans, not your desires. And that your plan, having a plan and actually executing it is the greatest expression of your faith. So that's what we're talking about tonight. And the question that I put out for everyone is, share with me a question or questions or a statement or statements that either came to you out of you processing your own things that you were going through, or that someone told you that literally changed, right, your mindset, or changed the trajectory of your life because of it, right? Because that's what we were talking about tonight, which is asking the right questions lead to the right answers. Asking the right questions can help establish a plan that leads you towards fulfilling your deepest dreams, and desires. And so that's what we're talking about tonight. Oh my goodness. Look at all these people coming in now. Why y'all up so late? Look at me, the pot calling the kettle black. Because I'm up late, right? I'm over here. Why y'all up so late? But I was on earlier. You guys coming on late. And I agree, plain old. Dr. Myles Munroe, man, was a genius, man. He's one of my favorites. Absolutely. Absolutely. The wisdom just poured out of him. And the statements that he made were just oh, geez. Oh, okay. Thanks for sharing. Plain old says one of the statements that changed his life was, I hope I'm reading this right too. Is it do say try? Oh, I think it's don't. Don't say try, just do. And when you can't do, train. I like it. I like it. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I thank you. I corrected it because I was like, do say. Don't. Yeah, that's true. Don't say try, just do. And when you can't do, train. I love that. That kind of reminds me of don't have the word can't in your vocabulary, right? I love that. Thank you. That's a good one. He said, that's what Pastor McDowell told me one day. Yeah. That's a really, really good one. That's a really good one, right? Because they say trying is attempting and failing. If you say I'm trying. I always say to I just had another vocal student. She's a cute little 7-year-old girl that I'm coaching now. I'm so proud of her gains, but I always say to her what I say to all my, vocal clients, which is practice makes permanent, right? And it definitely fits for learning how to sing and things like that. But I think that's in life overall, right? Practice makes permanent. The behaviorisms that you have, they don't make perfect, but they will make permanent. And then you have to kind of figure out how to course correct, and retrain, as plain old said. But that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. Well, thank you for you guys, popping in. You guys late nighters. What I'll do is probably bounce this question to the next episode on Sunday just to see, because I think it's a good, like I said, somebody might hear what I just said about the statement that change plain old mindset or change the trajectory of his life and now have that in their arsenal, right? Because sometimes we don't know the right questions to ask. Like I said, a lot of my coaching is asking tailored questions to my clients to help guide them to the answers that they already have existing inside of them, or to the truth that is already there. So asking the right questions is definitely a skill, and it affords a lot, in life. So, but thank you, Maya. Thank you, Plano. You guys hopped on at the end. I am getting off now for sure because it's late and I need to go sleep. But I appreciate you guys. All right. And God willing, I will be back on Sunday evening with you guys, and I'll probably just continue this conversation, see if we get some more people and get some more questions. But if you are catching the replay, definitely, number one, go to my YouTube channel, Forever Friends Academy. Like, comment, subscribe, spread and share the content so people can hear more of this enriching content. All right. And definitely, if you are checking out the replay, definitely flood my feed and let me know what are the questions and statements you've heard that changed the trajectory, shifted your mindset, changed the trajectory of your life in so much that you keep it in your, relationships skill, life skill toolkit. And so much that maybe you want to share it with other people. So maybe we can, create a nice little list of impactful questions that'll help people out. So absolutely love you guys. As always, you can be anywhere else at this moment in time. So if you gave me any little precious moment of your time, your energy, I appreciate it. All right. And I hopefully will be back on with you guys on Sunday. All right. See some of you guys on Sunday. As always remember to live to love freely. Until next time, bye.